Rejoice, as Mr. Knight is your Summoner's Choice 2025 champion winner. Hello everybody, welcome to a Sunday video. You're probably wondering why, well, this is old news, Rich, this is old news. Yeah, well, like, I'm not going to release 5 videos in one day, and as well, I'm not staying up until, like, stupid o'clock. Like, the live stream goes live at 6, and then, you know, I've got 4 hours to make videos before I've got to, like, think about heading to bed. So it is what it is. Like, I'll just upload when I kind of feel like I want it. And when I'm passionate about sharing something with you all, or there's something that I think is quite important to showcase. But I thought it was quite cool that there was 58% of the vote going to Mr. Knight. That is actually a little bit surprising. I did think that it would be more of a landslide. I'm sure some people will say, well, it's 58% winning to 42% losing is still, you know, that's a win's a win. Yeah, but it's not super substantial. There's fine-ish margins here. If it was something like, if it was a proper landslide, it would be like 70% to 30% going into more like landslides 80-20, but it's still 58 to 42. It's still pretty impressive, but it's not like a huge landslide. So it meant that people were still very much in for Shroud. Shroud obviously was an interesting option to players. So what we're expanding in this video on the topic of, well, what you're actually getting. Like, a lot of people will go, yay, my favourite one, Mr. Knight won. Well, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with the champion. We also don't know if it's going to tick boxes. Does anybody remember the situation with Gladiator? Oh, you don't remember? There were some people will and won't remember the fact that when Gladiator, which was the Summoner's Choice champion, came in, it didn't exactly do well with the numbers, the damage potential, and sort of rotation to a degree, but it was just a case of like the damage potential. So, as much as anybody, including myself, is hyped about Mr. Knight, I'm really excited that he won. We've got to wait for the champion to actually be revealed, released, and also the abilities given to us to give us a bit more flavour. Because at the moment, the vision so far, and this is the only thing we know about what we're getting with the champion, is his alter ego is Mark Spector. Well, you know that. The Moon Knight while Moon Knight is a violent vigilante of vengeance, Mr. Knight is a villain-facing persona. I think we know that. Focused on working with others and protecting those in need. Well, you know that. He uses his strength and acrobatics to take down his opponents while mitigating the effects of incoming debuffs. That's the only thing that we kind of get a bit of a flavour of what the champion will do. And let's face it, most skill champions have cleanse, purify, and other types of mechanics. So it's kind of like, yeah, we know that that's a very skill champion orientated trait, or a more commonly found trait. So whether his acrobatics is going to play some factor into his abilities, we don't know, but that's all we know thus far. Also visually, like what the character's going to look like, other Marvel games have already put out versions of Mr. Knight, whether it's Strike Force, I don't know if Future Fight has, Marvel Rivals has for sure. I think we've got an image, where is it? It's here, there we go. There's Mr. Knight from Marvel Rivals. Man, I miss playing Marvel Rivals, but I've got some stuff on that I've got to, I'll let you all know about. Like, I've got a new job. An unexpected job, and I will talk about that. I'm going on a grand adventure, but I will tell you about that soon. I need to find out actually what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say, which I find out on Tuesday anyway. That's interesting. But anyway, back to the subject. Has there actually been any kind of like visual Marvel Contest of Champions-esque style Mr. Knight content? Well, there actually has. You might not think there is or has been, but there actually has, in the shape and form of Nick Koss, which I'll put a link to both these videos in the description. So if a lot of you remember the Nick Koss What If season or series of videos, you can see on screen, this is the best flavour that you could probably have of what Mr. Knight would be like in action. You can see there's a lot of acrobatics in his designed animations, and that is just it's absolutely incredible. I don't know if this was released at the same time as the show, or it must have been to kind of coincide with it. But you can see here, like, the style is very much reminiscent of the TV show with some of the movements and animations. Look at that. Different example. Funny enough, there's Okoye. This was that's a very early on kind of like, not when they knew we were getting champion, but yeah, Nick did another fantastic video here where you can see that this is more the movie version, or sorry, TV version, the Marvel series version of Mr. Knight right there. Mainly kind of like working with Khonshu in kind of like changing, I can't remember, what was this like, is it time, changing back time, or just buying more time? Anyway, that was cool to see. I wonder indeed if they're going to very much go back to like a TV show, like float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. My name's Stephen with a V. You can see here he is absolutely rocking movement and a lot of the acrobatics for sure. No cape to hold him down. So I guess that's where he can do a lot of those kind of movements, the acrobatic movements. You go back to some of like comic books, you can definitely see that's being the case, that his movements are slightly different. And of course, like using like batons to smack down enemies. I'm excited. I'm very much looking forward to the character. The character was very kind of like loved from TV series, of course, the Stephen Grant version. Oscar Isaac did a fantastic job of playing the character, so it's nice to see this. But I do, of course, have concerns when it comes to Moon Knight, and that is, I hope that there's more expansion. There's like Jake Lockley at some stage, there's of course Moon Knight, and there's Mr. Knight together, and I'd love to see Khonshu in at a later date. I don't know if it's going to be actually possible, how Kabam would like to do those things, but look at it this way: you've got Hercules in game, you've got Odin in game, very much gods in their own right. So what about Egyptian gods coming in and expanding that out? And that is where my hope and aspirations are for Kabam, is they can actually kind of bring in something new, something different, and kind of expand out the champions and the characters within our MCOC universe, our battle realm, and have these kind of amazing characters doing different things. More on pre-fights, more things like Apocalypse. Apocalypse makes like horseman synergies. Or what if you could have like Khonshu being a creation, like a manifestate something, like he could come in as a mystic character but be able to do a lot of things himself, but also in his own right allowed to give power and improvement to Mr. Knight, to Moon Knight, to a future Jake Lockley, and maybe even other characters like, was it Hunter's, is it Hunter's Moon as well? Like Hunter's Moon could come in at a later date and be an expansion of that. So there's a lot of possibilities there, but it just depends if Kabam want to do it. Because if Kabam don't want to do those type of things, then I'm just got false hope of expanding on something that I personally like and I vibe with. It's also how, and this is the point I want to end on, is how Kabam look to differentiate the characters of Moon Knight to Mr. Knight, because they are very different, aren't they? There's, again, the civilian orientated, we've read about that, but how that character is more kind of capoettes type acrobatic movements, but also will he, well, of course he's not going to interact going like, what are you beating up that person for? Don't beat up that person, that is not a nice thing to do. You know, it's not going to be like that, but it's more a case of, look, we'll try and settle this with words, but if words fail, I'm going to have to take you down in the most acrobatic of fashions. And the same thing when it comes, like Moon Knight's meant to be more devastating, vicious, and not as vicious as Jake Lockley, but it's definitely trying to find a way to differentiate the characters and also the champions. But of course, we need a Moon Knight buff to be very much that kind of brawler, aggressive, angry type version of Mark Spector, or is Mark Spector, that personality, so to speak. Anyway, that is going to be it for the video. I am very much excited for Mr. Knight coming into the game and what type of look and appearance. I'm glad Kabam are going to be letting us know how the character is being unveiled, changing as well between the abilities pitch, the rigging, the model, the movements, the animations, and all other things. So it's very exciting for the future. I don't know when we'll receive it, at the end of the year or maybe next year. We'll have to see as Kabam expand on building this. But that's been a video. What are your thoughts on Mr. Knight coming into the game, or would you have preferred the Shroud? Put it in the comments. Thanks very much for watching. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.